squat day that I've ever had at a meet, aside from my very first competition. So what appealed to me a lot with the because I really put a lot of thought into doing this because I didn't want to make any rash decisions, but ultimately it was because like I'm surrounded by USPA lifters. Like let's just hop in one and see how things go. And the 24-hour like the 24-hour weigh-in was very attractive to me. That was probably the most attractive thing about the USPA because, you know, I am very much stuck in the middle between the 82.5 kilo class and the 90 kilo class. Like I walk around at like low 190, and it's like, well, if you want to be as competitive as possible, you know, cut down to 82.5. And that just seemed to be a little bit more doable, like with a 24-hour weigh-in. Now, long story short, I didn't need the 24-hour weigh-in because I was so honed in with my diet, like during last prep, because I competed last November, that whenever I was 5 days out, I was sitting at like 185. And this was,
and remind me, it's 182.
Yeah, it was like 182.8.
That you have
I think.
to be.
And
Okay.
I was working with a coach at the time, and he was like just go low carb a couple of days, and you'll make weight just fine. And but I was able to diet down, and I didn't even have to do a water load protocol, and I ended up weighing in at 178. I actually ended up going a little bit too hardcore with the weight cut. Yeah, so and then I'm like, okay, well, I just weighed in, I made weight, I'm light. Now I get to eat like a complete psychopath. And that's exactly what I did. And all that went back and bite my ass. Like the 2-hour weigh-in is difficult. Don't get me wrong. If you're doing a weight cut, like I remember showing up for Power for a Purpose in 2020, and I couldn't even flex my bicep because I was so dehydrated. And then you're like, I remember you having me modify Pedialytes the night before, just adding extra salt. And, you know, you're like, you come up to me and you hand me this little white pill right before weigh-ins. And I was like, what's this? It's like, you're going to need it. I was like, what is it? He's like, it's Imodium. And I never taken Imodium before. And you're like, whenever that salt hits your system, you may have some like distress. And oh shit, you were not kidding. I chugged that Pedialyte that had about 7 packs of ramen noodles worth of salt in it, and my guts completely to mush. And no, this was for the summer raid because you handled me at the summer raid, the second summer raid, not the 600 deadlift, but the one where
that makes sense.
Yeah, and I just felt awful. I felt like I was gonna be like I felt sick, and you're just like, eat your rice cakes, drink your water, it's gonna go away. And it did. Like then like minutes, all that distress just completely went away. The Imodium definitely did its job, but with the and I had a great day that day. And so, but with the most recent meet that I did, USPA meet, I'm like, okay, now I've got 24 hours to get as heavy as possible. And I went into that eating phase just as I did with the competition, is let's do this aggressively. Again, I ask myself, what would Tristan do, you know, in this situation? Like Tristan's going to eat. It's like, I need quick carbs. I need salt. I need something, you know, just as many calories as possible to just get me supercharged for the next day. And, you know, I don't talk about this a whole lot because I don't like making excuses. So, like, don't think that this is what I'm doing. But what had happened was, dude, I was eating like, you know, I think eating some junk food to a certain level afterward is like a good thing to like get yourself ready. But I just took it way too overboard. And when I showed up to the gym the next day to lift, the first thing I noticed was that my belt didn't fit me the way that it normally does. And I'm like, well, that's different. So like I was stuck. The belt was either too loose or too tight. And then I started after my first, so I opened with 518 on squat, and that I smoked it. I mean, it flew. And after that squat, I started getting cramps in both of my quads. And that's when I realized I miscalculated. I did something wrong. I did too much of salt or not enough water or something in between. I didn't account for all the sodium I probably ate during that day of eating, and I didn't like drink enough water. I don't know what it was, but my electrolyte balance was obviously very off. So I'm like trying to get my quads like chilled out. I come out. My goal was to shoot for the Maryland state record in the squat at the time, which was 562. I had to go for 567 to beat it. And I thought I had it. I had the best squat prep that you could ask for. You know, I ended up squatting 545 for 3, 555 for 2, 510 for 6, just amongst some of the other rep PRs I hit along the way. And so I was very confident. I was the most confident I had ever been on squat, because squat is always the lift that gives me the most anxiety. And so I go out to do 547, which was the next like 2.5 kilos up from like 540 squat that I did at Power for a Purpose the last time that you and I had shared a platform. And I squatted. I down, up, put it back. I'm literally about to go walk over to the judges to give them my next attempt. And I look over and they've given me a white. It was a red, a white, and a red. I'm like, okay, well, that didn't go according to plan. So, but then like I see the judges kind of like in a circle talking, and the meet director comes up to me. Now, granted, very cool meet director, Bobby Bolin, very professional guy. He explained this to me, I feel like, in the best way that he could. Again, we're not making excuses. Just like you said, you have to be undeniable. And that's exactly what I'm going to bring to my next competition, is an undeniable squat. Yeah. But he said that, he said that my depth was good, but they called me for a double bounce. They said that my hips didn't hit depth at the same time. Therefore, they gave me a red light. Therefore, I didn't get the lift. That, I was a little like, I didn't expect it. You know what I mean? Like I was a little confused, and I'm like, okay, well, push come to shove, get it. I'm like, okay. But again, I'm still confident. Like I still squatted that weight. It didn't give me.
Not to interject too much, if I could, I'll just say, because I know